Welcome to Village Tours Safety Meeting. This session deals with a motor coach operator versus a bus driver. Now, as we talk about that and look at that comparison, you have to realize we're not comparing a person based on the vehicle that they drive. What we are looking at is the attitude that person has behind the wheel and demonstrates as they are driving. You can be driving a school bus, a charter bus, a transit bus, a shuttle bus. It doesn't matter what type of vehicle, but it is the attitude and the professionalism that you demonstrate while you are in that vehicle and with the passengers and dealing with them. What we are considering here and looking at is an amateur versus a professional. As we examine the different characteristics and actions of a professional motor coach operator in this session, I think all of us will discover that we fall somewhere in between the two extremes. On the one end is the amateur, or as we classify it, the bus driver. On the other end is the professional motor coach operator. As we examine these characteristics and actions, we can see areas where we excel and we can see areas where we can improve. And that is the goal of this, that all of us will continue to improve our professionalism as we become better equipped, better knowledge, better skilled in this aspect of motor coach operation. Now, here are some of the characteristics that we see of any professional, but especially of a professional motor coach operator. They are safe, they are skilled, they are flexible, they are prepared, they are courteous, they are self-motivated, they are knowledgeable, and a couple of other things I've noticed. They tend to go the extra mile in dealing with the customer, in dealing with the trip, and they have a tremendous desire for excellence. They take pride in their job, in their performance. They take pride in their driving, in their customer relations, in their passenger care. They want to do a good job. Now, as we look at this, motor coach operation is not just a job, it's a lifestyle. It's not a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job. And it involves more than just showing up, going through the motions, and doing your job. There's much more involved. I think those of us who have been in this industry very long realize that it does become somewhat of a lifestyle. There are trips that you may begin at 3 a.m. in the morning. There are trips that may not end until 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And so you have to enjoy this work. You have to enjoy driving. You have to enjoy being with people. You have to enjoy seeing places and working with the different challenges that you may experience. So it does become a lifestyle. Now, we've looked at the characteristics. Let's look at some actions that I believe a professional motor coach operator exhibits in their job performance. First of all, a professional motor coach operator invests time and effort. They are willing to involve themselves to make an investment of their time above and beyond a 9 to 5 type thing, above and beyond showing up at a certain time and doing the trip, etc., etc. They invest time and effort in learning. They are interested in continuing gaining knowledge. Now, obviously, if you're going to be a professional motor coach operator, you are going to have to learn the rules regarding commercial motor vehicles, the rules regarding the CDL and how you as a CDL operator are held to a slightly higher standard, the rules regarding the FMCSA, as we refer to it as the DOT. You need to know what they expect and require of you as a professional driver and as a motor coach operator. One of the important areas in that realm are the hours of service rules. It is important that you somehow find these rules, read them. We provide a handbook of the FMCSA rules, the DOT rules, and there are a number of parts to that, but one of the most important is the hours of service. And if you're going to be a motor coach operator and out there, you need to know the ins and outs. You need to know what exceptions there may be and the exact definitions of the hours of service. Another area that you need to learn or continue learning is the motor coach itself. In our training, in our initial training, we try to introduce you to the motor coach and go through pre-trip inspections and things of that nature. We train you with regards to the controls and instruments. We get out on the road and we do all of that. But that's just the beginning. There are so many things about a motor coach that you just can't pick up by sitting down in the driver's seat for 15, 20 minutes or even an hour. And so as you continue driving, as you do a trip, you find yourself with some downtime, and normally you do have an hour or two or even more sometimes. Try to learn some new things about the coach. If it has a driver's manual or operator's manual, get that out. Look through it. See what the different switches, controls do, what their capabilities are. Also, you can go on the MCI websites, the Prevo websites, the TIMSA websites, and you can see videos and learn more about it. So you're investing time and effort. Another area is preparation. The motor coach operator has to do some preparation prior to the actual trip itself. You want to learn as much as you can and know as much as you can about the customer, what kind of group it is, what the ages, etc. It's a good idea to call your customer at least 24 hours before the trip itself. It allows you to establish or develop a rapport with them. If you do not know them, it allows them to get acquainted with you. You can also check on the pickup location and the exact place in an area where you're picking them up, the best way to park or the best way to get there. Also, you can verify the times that you have on your orders. It gives the customer a great deal of peace of mind just knowing that you are on top of this, you are doing your research, and you are prepared. Another area, of course, is the trip itself. Once you're given your driver's orders, the itinerary, the places you're going, if it's a place or area you're not familiar with, you want to do some homework. You want to look up some maps, perhaps some satellite views of various areas, the places you may be going to, restaurants, hotels, other venues that you may be taking the customer to. Look those up. Get a bird's eye view of what you're dealing with, the streets around it, the parking lot. You cannot learn too much. If you're going to a distant state, a big city, New York City, Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., do a little research on perhaps the motor coach rules in that area, that state, that city. Different places have different rules and policies for motor coach operation. Idle times in these larger cities are becoming an important thing, but you have to spend some time in preparation. Another area that you want to invest time and effort are the inspections. Obviously, we have a pre-trip inspection. The pre-trip inspection is very important. It is the time that you can look over the coach, look inside the compartments, check the engine compartment, review the previous DVIR, see if there were any defects written up, and if they were, have they been fixed? All of these things are important before you begin your trip because it allows you to sometimes catch things that could possibly cause a breakdown or an interruption in the service that day. It's also a requirement of the DOT. It's a good idea while you're traveling, during your trip, en route, every time you make a stop, whether it's for 15 minutes at a potty break or whether it's for an hour and a half for lunch or whatever, before you start, before you leave that spot, walk around the coach, check and look and see if there's something that's changed, a wire hanging down, a fluid leaking, a tire low. It's just a good idea to check these things. Just do a quick walk around, check your lights again. And then, of course, at the end of the day, you must do a post-trip or what's called a DVIR, Driver Vehicle Inspection Report. That is required by the DOT, and it must be filled out, and you list any defects. You fill it out even if there are no defects. Another area that we invest time and effort is with our passenger care, or we could actually look at this action. We want to cultivate passenger care. One of the first areas I believe that shows that we're concerned about our passengers is obviously our dress. A professional driver dresses professionally. It would be nice if we could go relaxed and cutoffs and maybe a polo shirt, but I believe the uniform that Village has, the shirt, the design shirt, the name of Village Tours, the name tag, the tie, the black slacks, the black shoes, all of these give a professional image and look to us as drivers. You many times are the first and sometimes the only person that the customer will see that represents Village Tours. So it's very important that you begin with a good image. Also, when you step off the bus looking professionally, it gives all of the passengers a comfort or assurance. This guy is a professional, and I'm going to have a professional trip. Another area of passenger care is the welcome aboard and safety speech. It is important, in fact, it is required by Village Tours that you introduce yourself to your group on the first part of your trip, the first day, first morning, and that you give a safety speech about the coach. Now, in your driver's manual, the last page, there is a sample safety speech. You should look over that. You may want to develop your own. Whatever you do, you must cover the emergency exits. You want to refer to them before your passengers. You want to point out where they are. For instance, the two roof hatches, if the coach has two. Point them out and describe how they operate. Be sure that you know how they operate. You also want to point out the exit windows. They are clearly marked as an emergency exit, and you want to point out where they're located on each side of the coach and how they operate. Lift up on the bar and push out at the bottom. It is important that you give this information to your passengers during this safety speech. It is not uncommon if you are stopped by a DOT official while you're on the road. They may get on board the bus and they may actually ask your passengers, did your driver tell you where the emergency exits are and describe how they operate? So be sure and do that. Another area is that we are required and we want to assist our passengers on and off the coach. It is important that you be the first one off the coach. If you think that may be an issue with your passengers, include that statement in your welcome aboard speech. That allows you to stop the coach, get off the coach, be at the foot of the stairs, watching people as they get off the coach, be there when they're boarding the coach, so if they slip or trip or something, you're there to help catch them and perhaps prevent a fall. Another area where we cultivate passenger care is in the luggage. By handling the luggage, we are required, company policy, to load and unload the luggage. Now, that means from the curb to the coach or from the coach to the curb. So it's important that you be down there when they arrive with their luggage and that you offer to assist them. Now, there are a few groups that bands, things like this, that want to load and stack their equipment, and they sometimes have a group or a team assigned that. And that's okay, but you need to be there, supervising, assisting, watching, make sure that they are doing it properly and that they're not in any way about to harm or damage themselves. So be there. Even if they may throw their bags in and you just have 10 or 12 people or whatever, be there and offer your assistance. Another action that we have as a professional is that we drive friendly. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that you drive courteously. You are courteous to other motorists, to pedestrians, to people on bicycles, to people on motorcycles. You have to be aware of these potential conflicts out there, especially pedestrians that may be walking along the curb or may be wanting to step out in front of you, be courteous to them, acknowledge them, and if they want to cross and you can safely stop, do so. Same thing with bicyclists. You've got to be aware that they can be around you, especially in some of these larger cities, but they can be anywhere. Other motorists, try to be courteous to them. Try to drive friendly with relationships to them. Entrance ramps are a big area where this occurs. Most people think that the person on the entrance ramp should yield, and probably they should because you are traveling on the main part of the thoroughfare. But if they're racing you and trying to get on ahead of you, a lot of times it's a lot simpler just to ease off the accelerator, just to back off, let them get on in front of you and get on down the road, rather than to try to race them and battle with them for who has the supremacy of the road. We don't have to arrive first. You need to realize that. It's not a race, and you don't get a prize if you're the first bus there or if your bus arrives before anybody else. But we do have to arrive safely. Another area where we can demonstrate our friendly driving is by driving defensively. And to put it simply, the best defensive driving system is called the Smith system. We offer that to our drivers as a training program. Here it is in a nutshell. Key 1, aim high in steering. In other words, look down the road, look further down the road. Key 2, get the big picture. See what's going on all around in front of you, to your sides, and even behind you as much as possible. Then keep your eyes moving. The only way you can keep the big picture is to constantly move your eyes and not focus too long on any one thing. And a very important part of defensive driving is leave yourself an out. You want to try to create space around your vehicle, but the only space you and I as a driver really control is the space in front of our vehicle. We want you to have a 5 to 6 second following distance. It not only gives you the time to stop if there's something that happens in front of you, it gives you time to make good decisions. And it allows you to stop without having to do what's called harsh braking. And then the fifth key, make sure that they see you. Do things, your lights, signals, horn, whatever, to make sure that pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists, and other motorists see you. Another way that we drive friendly is to try to drive smoothly. Now, this takes time, it takes effort, it takes you learning about the coach and how to drive smoothly. On the road, you want to have that following distance. You want to have enough space in front of you that if something happens, you have time to respond without having to slam on the brakes. That gives your passengers a much smoother ride. Also, when you are making a stop, try to bleed that speed off before you get up to the stop. Don't just rush up there, then come down on the brakes and bring the bus to a screeching halt. Try to bleed that speed off. And then toward the end, you can begin to apply the brakes and try to make that stopping motion as smooth as possible. One technique that probably you've already learned is that as you're just about to stop, just before the wheels stop rolling, just release the brake for just a split second and then ease back down on it. It will take that sudden jerk out right at the end of the stop. One other thing about stops, and especially stoplights, when you are at a stoplight and there are 3 or 4 other vehicles ahead of you, your light does not turn green until the brake lights on the vehicle in front of you go out and their wheels begin to turn. So there's no need when the light turns green, if that's what you're watching, to let off the brake and then all of a sudden have to come back on the brake because somebody in front of you hasn't moved. So give them that time to move. Another area is turns. I don't know how many new drivers I see, they want to speed around a turn. If they're at a stop sign or a stoplight, they want to accelerate quickly or even in some cases accelerate in the turn. Try to ease around the turns. It gives your passengers a much smoother ride. One other area that helps us demonstrate our friendly driving is our commitment. Our commitment to try to drive smoothly, our commitment to avoid bus damage, our commitment not to put our vehicle somewhere where there is the potential for damage. Make that commitment with yourself. Another area of action of a professional motor coach operator is that they handle difficulties. There are various kinds of difficulties that you and I will experience out on the road. Sometimes they're group problems. Sometimes there's individuals that may create problems in various groups. Sometimes the group themselves want to change something. And so you have to deal with these issues. One of the things you want to try to avoid that demonstrates you're a professional, try to diffuse the situation if it's beginning to develop into a problem. Try to be calm. Try to speak calmly and softly. Try not to add to the problem if there's anger or something like that involved. There are various emergencies that we may encounter. Breakdowns are one. Any vehicle can break down, new or old, no matter how well it's maintained. Even if you have done a thorough pre-trip, sometimes things do happen out on the road. How you handle the breakdown demonstrates whether you're a professional or not. You want to try to keep the group informed. Inform them initially that you may have a problem, that you're checking it out. Inform them about the problem, what you're doing, what the mechanics are doing, what dispatch is doing. Just try to keep them informed. Another emergency that can and does happen has to do with medical emergencies with the group. One thing you must realize, these motor coaches do not make good ambulances. If you have a medical emergency with your group en route, the best thing is have someone call 911 and have an ambulance meet you somewhere, or just stop and let them come to you and let them deal with the situation. You may need to stop. You may need to give that passenger some room, or perhaps someone work with them until medical help arrives. But do whatever is necessary. Another area is accidents themselves. We don't want an accident to happen. We try to prevent them, and we want you to prevent them as much as you possibly can, but sometimes they do happen. If they do, one of the first things you want to do is secure the scene. Check on your passengers, see if there are any injuries. Check on other people involved if there are injuries. Call emergency help if you need to, the police, the fire department, the ambulance. Set out your emergency triangles. Get things going so that a worse accident doesn't develop out of this. Deal with the situation, deal with the people. One of the best things is if there's no danger in them being harmed, their best and safest place for the passengers is to stay on the coach. So try to keep the door closed. It keeps other people out, and it can keep them in a safe environment. Now, if they need to get off the coach, if it's a bus fire or something like that, immediately, that's the first thing you want to do is get them off the coach. Somewhere down the line, you want to call your dispatcher or call me, the safety director. Now, one of the final areas of our actions that demonstrate our professionalism is that we seek continual improvement. We're constantly trying to learn more about the rules, about motor coach driving, about the motor coach itself. Here are some things. Look at the engine compartment. We're not going to ask you to overhaul the engine and work on it, but you do need to be familiar with the components back there. Which ones are belt driven, which ones are gear driven, where the belts are in case they need replacing. Things of this nature. Look in the various compartments. If you don't know how to get in the battery compartment, figure out how to open that door. Have someone show you. If you were stopped for a DOT inspection, that's one of the places they're wanting to look. They want to look at the battery terminals to make sure that they're tight and there's no corrosion. Know how to get into that compartment. Also, the restroom service area. If you have never serviced the restroom, you need to come by one of the shops and watch the detailers, the cleaning people, as they dump the restroom. Know how to dump the top tank into the bottom. Know how to dump the complete system and how to flush it out. Also, the front service compartment. There's where your windshield washer fluid is. There are other things in there. One of the things that you see and have access to from this compartment is the spare tire. Now, what you have to do, there is a lever, a yellow handle lever, as you see there in the upper left corner, that releases the front bumper so that you can remove the spare tire. Now, you're not going to have to change a tire, but you do need to know for the service technician where it is, how to get to it. Again, DOT stops you. They're going to want to know that you know how to get to that, and they're going to want to look at that. Finally, regarding training, we are developing a training website. It is drivevillage.net. You can go on that website, log in, and you can review some of the training material. You may need to sometime for just a remedial training, as well as new things are added to this website from time to time that can be of benefit to you now. Another website is the government website, fmcsa.gov, and that is a website you can go to look at the various rules, keep up with things that are changing. These are important websites, so be sure that you are familiar with them. Thank you for listening and participating in this Village Tours training session.